Hello, I'm James Helder and welcome to this Championship special as we look at some of the teams around the top half of the Championship. I'm quite privileged and honoured to be joined by none other than my friend, boxing and football extraordinaire, Steve Lillis. How are you, Chief?
I'm good, James. Good to see you again, mate. As I say to you, I don't see enough of you these days, but I'm not at a lot of shows these days, so there you go.
I see loads of you. I'm constantly watching your videos and stuff that you're up to.
Oh,
I see more of you now than I did when I worked with you, to be honest. So, yeah, good to have you with us, Steve. We're also...
And you, good to be on, James.
Love that. We're also joined by Mick from that Millwall podcast. How are you, Mickey, baby? All good?
I'm all good, fella. I'm all good. It's been a long time we ain't seen each other, but yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Glad to have you with us, mate. Really appreciate you making time for the show. Also with me, I've got Sheffield United super fan, obsessive, compulsive Sheffield United addict, none other than Johnny from the Shoreham View. What's happening, Gazza? How are you?
I'm not too bad, James. How you going, pal?
I'm very well. And we've got a newbie on the show today. Des, great to have you with us. You're representing Nottingham Forrest today.
Yeah, pleased to be on. Good to meet everybody. Looking forward to that promotion.
Like that. Let's get it started. Steve Lillis, you're looking down on everyone like mere footballing peasants at the moment with your Kings Road swagger, top of the table. Fulham have done the business. Talk to me about it, mate.
It's not a Kings Road swagger, it's Fulham Palace Road. Kings Road's where the squatters live, Chelsea, who actually play in Fulham.
Ain't Kings Road sort of in between on the Fulham and Chelsea?
No. You come on, you're a good South London man. I'm not having that. Fulham's Fulham Road, Fulham Palace Road. Kings Road is where the squatters play. But yeah, it's been a good season, mate. It's been a fantastic season. A lot of work to be done. You've known me, James, for years. I'm not a fan who gets over the top. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
They need 4 or 5 new players to have any sort of chance of finally shedding the yo-yo tag. At the end of the day, as great as it's been watching Silver's football this season, and it's been marvellous, 99 goals, Mick getting 41, still lost 8 matches. So, and a lot of those 8 games we didn't deserve to win. So, look, it's been a brilliant season. Hopefully we'll go up at champions. We were 30 seconds from doing it yesterday. The playoffs are going to be fantastic. Who goes up with Fulham? Fantastic. I think Forrest have got a big chance against Fulham on Tuesday night. That game yesterday took a lot out of Fulham because once we went 1 up, it was a real battle. It was a real roll your sleeves up and hang on and, do what you can to win. And we go into that big Forest game on Tuesday night. Of course, we still need the 3 points to make sure of the league. Forest need to win that because if Fulham beat Forest on Tuesday night, then I think Forest will have 5 or 6 points to make up on Bournemouth with 2 games to go, and then the playoffs are going to be absolutely marvellous this year. Sheffield United are in it. I'd like to see Millwall get in it and win it, but I think that loss at Stoke and the home game at Swansea the other week are the ones that might have cost them. If they'd won one of them, things might have been different for them.
Interesting conundrum at the moment. Who do you think's second favourites to go up with Fulham?
Oh, you got to go with Bournemouth, James, because they've got Forest to come. It's at home. There's only 3 matches there. Look, it's long odds still Bournemouth, even if Nottingham Forest beat Fulham. Nottingham Forest have still got to go to Bournemouth and win. I think that's on Tuesday week or Wednesday week. You still got to go. But I think everybody in that league, Fulham included, are just glad that Steve Cooper wasn't at Forest at the start of the season. I went there when we beat them 4-1. It'd only been there a couple of weeks. Could easily have been 4-4 that game. I think everyone's just relieved that Steve Cooper wasn't at Forest when they started the season. Of course, if Forest, get in the playoffs, they'll be the hot favourites to win it. But they're mad, them playoffs. Anything could happen.
Now, Des, we've got you with us. Forest are currently sitting 4th in the Championship. They've got 2 games in hand. What are your feelings? How confident are you in Forest achieving automatic promotion?
Automatic is going to be tough. Like Steve says, we're looking at that Bournemouth game, hoping, but when we get to that, with 2 games to go, we've got a chance of at least winning them down. I'd like to see us push them to the final game of the season, but it's going to depend on results till then. So it's tough, but the form we've been in under Steve Cooper, we don't lose very many games at all. Steve mentioned the game there against Fulham. It was that game early in Steve Cooper's tenure that convinced me that Forrest would get to the playoffs. And we got done 4-0, but we was really, really in that game. And it's the only time we've took a beating under Cooper. Fulham looked to cut above when it was 2-3, 4-0, because that's what happens in football matches. But I think it's going to be hard to get second, but the form we're in, taking it into the playoffs, I'd like us just to keep winning football matches. It's a bit tricky now because we might get caught in no man's land a bit. We might miss out on second and then sort of take a foot off it as we look to those big playoff games. I'm hoping that doesn't happen because I want us to go in and like Steve said again, we'll probably be the favourites. Every team is saying that we're the team to avoid. I think we're the best team in those playoffs, of course I do. But and on recent performances, I just think they've got a massive chance this year. It's 23 years since Forrest have been in the Premier League, and this one feels like it's all come together, and it's all because of Steve Cooper.
Is it a chance to see how far they've come under Steve Cooper on Tuesday against Fulham? With comparison to the first game, I know it was a heavy defeat. You should have probably scored a couple more goals, but is it a chance to see how that side's developed?
I think so to some degree, but I think there's been plenty of tests in between that. We've played Premier League teams in the FA Cup, and yeah, it's a different game, it's a different atmosphere, but they've stood toe to toe, and Forest seem to be better in these bigger games. Cooper seems to have got this big game mentality about them. Games like Peterborough away, we just kind of scrape through them. When we're not quite expected to go and steamroll teams is generally when we do. The ability of some of these real sort of star players like Brennan Johnson and Jed Spence, really comes to the fore. And when teams don't sit back against us, we can really sort of expose them with what's probably still a little bit of unknown quality, within the squad. I know people are becoming more and more aware of it, but the more the season goes on, these bigger games in the FA Cup, like I say, the team's not backing off us like Peterborough might or like a lower team. And when we have taken a defeat, it tends to be against somebody that's struggling, that's probably going to park the bus for a bit and nick a goal and then park the bus for the rest of the match. So I think Fulham will be a good test on Tuesday night, and we'll, of course, as football fans, we'll look back to that result, and Fulham fans will remind us of it as well, I guess. But if we come through that, if we win it, it just shows that, I think if Cooper had been there for the whole season, like Steve alluded to, we'd have been in second place quite easily. I think we'd have almost been challenging Fulham for top spot as well, based on points per game since he came in. So yeah, I think it's going to be a test, but I don't think it's the be all and end all.
Now, boys, before we speak about some of the other teams in the division, I know we've got Johnny here, avid Sheffield United man. Sheffield United currently 6th in the table, start of the season. Big things predicted for them. One of the favourites to gain automatic promotion. Talk to me about it, Johnny. What are you feeling at the moment?
We're limping towards playoffs. I won't say we're setting the world alight. We're just limping towards them. And when you look at the players who've actually got available, it's not really a surprise. We've got Arthur's first team. They can't put in more than 90 minutes before they're injured again. So even when we get players like Billy Sharp, George Baldock, Chris Basham coming back from injury, they play 2-3 games, get on that training pitch of doom, and they're injured again. So we've not had a settled side. We've managed to scrape some results where we probably didn't deserve them. And then you've got to remember that we had Slavisa Jokanovic at the beginning of the season, the man who was hailed as a bit of a footballing marvel and a promotion expert. He was garbage. He didn't understand the way the players worked, and he couldn't adjust what players he had at his disposal to adjust his system. So a good manager would then look at his approach and maybe change that to match the players, especially when you know you've got no money coming in, because the Poundland Prince at the top of the club, he wasn't bringing any players in on any permanence. It's just really ended the season. I'm ecstatic that we're finishing the top half, if I'm honest, especially with how we started. Playoffs-wise, as any football fan does, I want to see us get into them playoffs, try us luck, see if we can scrape through a bit of a promotion out of nowhere, really. But I don't think my bank balance and my heart can take another day out at Wembley, because we all know how that goes for Sheffield United. We never win at Wembley. So as far as seasons go, it's been a bit of an enigma, and that's how I see it finishing. Nobody can tell how it's going to finish, especially with Millwall breathing down his necks. Millwall do this every single season. They come in and they make a late push for the playoffs. And if they get in, I'd say they're more favourites than anybody else. Because look at Millwall's record in playoffs; they always do well there. So my heart's saying, "Come on, Blades, we can push through it and we can snatch them playoffs." And then who knows? But my head kind of says we don't have it in us. We've been finishing the playoffs. We've got QPR and Fulham still to come. Fulham's going to want to put out Lord Mayor's Parade for last game of the season, and then you've got QPR, they're one of the worst teams I've seen at Bramall Lane this season, but they've played us like 3 weeks ago. So they know how we play. It's recent in their mind. They want to get revenge, and it's on our home turf for them. So it could really put a scamper in our works.
Mickey, baby, from the Millwall podcast.
Yeah, mate.
Boosting, mate. Are they strong enough to get?
I think we are.
The playoffs?
I think there's a strong chance, especially as we've been hit by injuries most of the season, and all our players seem to be coming back fit. Yeah, we've got Malone out for a little while now, but most of our players are fit now, and it's coming at the right time. And I think that's the difference compared to last season, where we suddenly made a run and we didn't win enough games last season. This season we've managed to draw more than lose. We've got the best home win in the league, and we can knock through the results. And I think the way we're looking at it is, it's not, oh, we're going to make it a playoff. It's just literally, if we just treat each game as it comes and just go out there and give it, like Birmingham yesterday, there was a cheap penalty for them. All of a sudden they were winning, they were beating us. And then the 96th minute, we get a penalty and we equalise. All of a sudden, it's game back on again. Yesterday, 2-1, Sheffield United must have been absolutely cheering to bits, thinking, yeah, they're safe. And then all of a sudden, we stick it in on the penalty. All of a sudden, 2-2, blows the whistle. It's game on again. It's only 4 points difference. 6 games, we got 2 games left. We got Peterborough at home and we got Bournemouth away. And, it's really straightforward to us. We're not like you boys. You've got 3, 4, 5. Some of you 4 games, 5 games left, where you're going to be going Tuesday, Saturday to get games in. We've just got a game Saturday and then a game next Saturday, and that's it. That's us done. So I think, look, I don't think we should be counting our chickens, counting our eggs yet, but I do think there is a possibility. If Sheffield United can lose theirs, 2 of theirs or so, then it's game on.
Love that. Like Johnny mentioned, Millwall was so formidable in playoff situations and going to Wembley and the fans and the backing of the club. Would you be confident if they get in that situation, they can see it through?
Yeah, I think that if we get to Wembley, then I think, there's a lot of players in there, the likes of Jed Wallace and who want that final push. They want that, most of those will probably want to stay with us if we can get into the Premiership, because obviously they know they're guaranteed football, rather than, if the rumours with Jed going to Forrest. Is he going to get regular football there? Don't know. Not signed a contract yet. Is he going to go anywhere? Is he going to stay with us? It's still open-ended. We don't know. But, we go to Wembley more than any other club, so much so that they built us a fucking train line going from Bermondsey to fucking Wembley on one line. Wembley, it's our adopted home, mate. And I think once we know how to play there, do you know what I mean? We've played there so many times. We know the size of the pitch. We know, what the atmosphere brings. If we get there, then I'll be quite confident, depending who we get though, innit?
I hear that. Chris from West Brom, how are you?
Well, not involved in this conversation. I can assure you of that, because we are garbage.
I think you've clicked into the wrong group. This is a promotion chasing chat today.
You know what I mean?
What's going on, Chris? What's happened, son?
Well, therein lies the question. Well, we hired Steve Bruce, so there's your first answer. But what went wrong? It's just gone from bad to worse for us all season. To be honest with you, it's just been. We hired Valerian Ismail, who was a decent. I actually think was a half decent manager, but he's just the wrong appointment. Our fans have got something probably a bit like what you were saying about Jukanovic. Really, I mean, he's had historically he's had success, but realistically, our fans want a certain style of play. They enjoyed the promotions under people like Mowbray and Di Matteo, where we scored a lot of goals, and Ishmael was more pragmatic than that. He wanted to get the ball forward early. Up until the point where Bruce managed to ruin it all, we had the best defence in the league, even when we weren't getting results. But our fans don't enjoy that. That's not, we're not a 1-0 team. That's not what our fans want to put up with. And I mean, we were unbeaten at home and booing the team at half time. I say we, I don't include myself in that because I didn't resort to that at all. But there was audible boos at half time when we were when we were 0-0 with teams that we would then go on to beat, and we hadn't lost a game all season at home. We lost one game at home under Ishmael the whole time, I think, or two. But it wasn't bad in terms of results. We were 5th when he got fired, but it's just gone from bad to worse with Bruce. He's tried to fix things that some things were broken and needed fixing. We were something like 56 minutes away from going on an all-time record run without a goal in the club's entire history. The longest run in the club's entire history without scoring a goal. So he needed to sort something out up front, but he's tinkered with the defence, the best defence in the league, and he's managed to break that, and he hasn't fixed the forward line. So, it's like you've sprung a leak and you've hired the plumber, and he's gone and nailed a couple more leaks in the pipe and left the one that you had originally as well. It's just it's just an absolute mess, which is why it wasn't a massive shock when this weekend we were mathematically ruled out of the playoff race.
Bruce, you don't feel has a long-term future then at the club, and with the style of football that you and the fans want him to play, it's never going to happen, is it? You don't see him being there long.
But you say that, but he's mates with the chief exec. He's Ron Gourlay's mate. So we look. Everybody on this group knows what a jobs for the boys industry football can be, and it's jobs for the boys. That's why he's there. Let's not make any bones about it. He wasn't hired. I mean, okay, if you want to hire somebody to get you through to the end of the season, I can understand why you are going to have a better pool of managers to pick from in the summer than you are in February, which is when we fired Valérien Ismaël. I actually didn't have a massive problem with bringing Bruce in for 6 months, because I think once you've fired Ismaël in February, you're leaving yourself in a really difficult situation. In who on earth is going to want to take that job without a transfer window to try and get them over the line? It's just, they're not going to want to touch it, are they? But to give him an 18-month deal is just absolutely crackers, in my opinion. And Gourlay's given it all this big talk about, we're going to sort the football structure out. We're going to bring in a sporting director. We're going to get more football people on the board. It's been 3 months. We haven't seen one indication of this. The recruitment team, who've been an absolute disaster since Luke Dowling ripped apart what had been a really successful recruitment team and replaced them with a bunch of his mates. I mean, I'm so glad Ian Pearce has got his Premier League winners medal hanging in his cabinet, because that's really helping us buy players. It's just an absolute disaster, and we've still got the same blokes that we had before Gourlay came in. There's no indication he's going to get anything sorted out for the summer. He's got his mate in charge. It's just, and we have turned into everything I hate, which is a massive jobs for the boys club run by a bunch of lads who are just bringing in their pals. We've got an absentee owner who's over in China, has been to 2 games since he bought the club 5 years ago. Honestly, mate, we are going to be that next cautionary tale. You know, that one that Wolves and Sheffield Wednesday and all these other clubs have become. Like, we're the next one. We're the next one off the line. Sunderland, get us our Netflix documentary now, because it's going to be worth watching.
Yeah,
I know your opposition. Scout as such. There, I used to work with a fella who's he's the boy of Stan Tennant, who used to be the Burnley manager.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah. Dan Tennant. He's a good lad, but he does a lot of stuff for Bruce wherever Bruce goes. But he is a good lad. So yeah, I mean, Steve seems to bring in people he trusts around him, and Dan's definitely trusted with Bruce. So there might be things you might change for you, but I understand where you're coming from, though.
I just want to see people get jobs that they've earned. That's all it is. I mean, it's okay if I understand people want to hire people that they trust, but I don't. The bottom line is we've had relegation form in the 15 games that Bruce has been in charge. Our points per game would get you relegated in most seasons. How do you give a bloke another year after that? He took over this club 5th in the league. We are now 13th, and we could finish as low as 16th, quite conceivably as well, by the way, because the teams that would have to catch us have all got a game in hand on us. So if you drop a team 11 places in 3 months, how do you get given another year?
I suppose it's because he supported local economy. Because I imagine since Bruce has gone there, kebab sales have flown up in West Bromwich Albion.
Yeah, but sometimes...
I didn't know Ron Gourlay was there. I had no idea about it. Got up on the poor club. Funny, Ron had a pub about 100 yards from my house. God knows how he got a pub on the outskirts of Manchester. He bought it off someone for a fortune. He let you know who he was as well when you popped in there. And he had a personalised number plate, and he ran it right down, and now he's just sold it.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, he had a pub in Ashton, Manchester called the Broado. He flogged it about a year ago.
That's a bad omen.
Do you think your club could end up like that pub? The way things are going.
What?
Oh, Fulham,
Why not? Why
Fulham.
not? Honestly, I think to be honest, we're one bad season away from Gauchon like our Chinese owner flogging us for parts. So and we ain't got a lot of parts.
I love that analogy. I really love that analogy. Now, Lillis, looking at, we've heard all the boys talk about their promotion, their running, how they're feeling, their teams. Who would you be more confident at backing as a tip or a bet to get to the playoffs and potentially go up via that route?
If Millwall got in the playoffs, I'd really fancy them. And maybe I'm a bit biased because I've got a soft spot for Millwall. A lot of Millwall friends, one very good friend. If Millwall got in the playoffs, I think they will be the team to keep an eye on. If Forrest are in the play, if Millwall don't make it, I'll go Forrest if they in the playoffs. If Forrest get automatic promotion, I won't be surprised to see Huddersfield do well in the playoffs. Really hard team to play against.
You just picked 50% of the team.
I know what? I don't know how it's going to end up. Okay, I'm going to go then. All right, then I'm going to go for Bournemouth to get promotion and Forrest to win the playoffs.
All right, he's a no on the fence there. I like that. While we're on the subject of Millwall, I'd just like to pay our respects to Millwall legend Mick Beard as well. Dearly departed quite recently as well. Legend of the club. Understated the amount of careers that man helped find players and develop throughout generations is unbelievable. So just wanted to pay my deepest sympathy and respect to the Beard family in what is no doubt a tragic time for them.
Absolutely, I second that. Absolutely. I mean, Mark and his family must be going through, nightmare times. But yeah, his dad, most people probably don't even realise, but the amount of Millwall careers that man got and sorted over the years is not worth thinking about. There has been some big legends.
Indeed. So we just pay our deepest respects to the Beard family. Looking at the Championship now. Seems some nervous bum twitching going on amongst you all.
We just need Bruce after the kebabs, mate.
Not you. You're on the kebabs. You're on the kebab diet for the next 3 months. But the other boys, who's more confident then? Genuinely.
We're not in charge of it. I mean, we're 4 points off the playoff at the minute. We need Sheffield United to fuck up. We need Sheffield United to muck up. There you go, just in case you can edit that bit out. And if they do, and we can win our last 2 games, Bournemouth will be a hard one. Peterborough we should be able to do on our current form. And if we can win the last 2 games, then yeah, it goes. But I really hope it goes to the last game of the season with a various amounts of teams, last game of the season. And I think it just makes the Championship all that a little bit more interesting on the last day, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if we go up into the playoffs, I can see it being on something as daft as goal difference. That's how confident I am. It could come to a stage where us having 12 and you having 6 at the moment plays a big part. I said that and you win Peterborough 6-7-0 now, just to muck everything up for us.
Absolutely.
That's where Championship's been this season. You get you get a result like Blackpool beating Birmingham 6-1. Who saw that coming? Everything's mad. It's quality-wise, it's been one of the poorest
last season as well. Look at Forrest on the final day. Who had that? What was it? 7-goal swing with Swansea for them to blow the playoffs.
But do you not think that if Fulham going to Bramall Lane last day of the season, 26,000 Sheffield United fans going bananas, Fulham might have won the league, nothing to play for. Could be hard, I've got a feeling if Fulham go there as already champions by that day, I think Sheffield United might roll them over.
I always think more is made of that. I mean, look at this weekend. Everybody was saying Fulham are going to have been on the lash since Tuesday. They go to Bournemouth. Bournemouth needed a 93rd minute penalty to get a point against them. Bournemouth have got way more to play for. I always think people chuck around on the beach. The Blackpool have been on supposedly on the beach, maybe not their own, for a couple of weeks. They went and stuck 6 past Birmingham.
I think the thing with us on that is we got to have a fully fit team to do that. We've already beat Fulham, obviously, at the Cottage. We somehow beat you 1-0, took a wonder goal. I don't see where a wonder goal is going to come from for us. We've got Billy Sharp who can only play 45 minutes because he's just come back from an injury, and at his age, it can be a bit fragile, bless him. So we've also got McBurney out for the rest of the season. Not that he's scoring anyway. Yeah, I don't think he's scored since, the Premier League season? So it's nonsense for him to come on and score. We've got to get goals to win these games, and we're nicking the odd one here and there. But how long is it before we stop pulling horseshoes out of his arse?
You've got a recall on Ollie Burke.
Mate, they can keep him. They can keep him, honestly. Even if he is scoring for them and doing well for them, they can keep him forever.
Worst player I've seen in an Albion shirt, and we paid 15 million quid for him. We must need our head looking at. But then so do you for taking him off us.
I'll tell you what, though. This is why he does well. Yeah, and he played for Forrest as well. We all said the same thing, but he'll fit Millwall. As soon as he can start putting his shoes on the right feet, he'll get goals for them because he's got that pace. We all know how fast he is. As an Olympic athlete, as a runner, he'd be taking gold every time. But all he has to do in a Millwall team, because they have 3 shots on target all game. Admittedly, if they put 2 of them away, they've won. So all he has to do is just sit on that line, beat the trap, and hope that one of his 84 shots actually hits a target. That's why he works.
Purely on what you guys are saying about stumbling into 6th place, I'm mega confident that Forest are going up, because normally it's that team that gets into 6th place. But what seems to be happening this season is that when the team gets there, they're throwing it away, not clinching it. There's a couple of games, Sheffield United, the Bristol game, they could have won and really cemented the position. But I think it's going to come from those teams, Forest, Huddersfield or Luton. For me, Luton are the toughest team we've played in a long time.
Yeah.
Of course, they beat us, but they was really in a face, small, compact pitch, and I wouldn't fancy those over 2 legs. But any of the other teams, including Sheffield United and Millwall, I think on the bigger pitch at the City Ground especially, we've got goals in us where like you say, you're nicking a goal here and there, you're winning games. It's important to do that, don't get me wrong. But in these playoffs become all out war, don't they? It's end to end, and we've got the players for that situation. Luton might not have that when it comes to the country.
What I'd also, just on what you've just said there as well, with Luton, that's I fancy them a little bit over 2 legs in the semi-final, but I don't fancy them at all in the final, because on that big pitch at Wembley, they're so strong at Kenilworth Road, but it is such a tight pitch. It's such a horrible place to play, and they just lose all that advantage going to Wembley. So I wouldn't write them off altogether because they're a good side, but I think out of all the teams in there, if you're asking me who can go all the way, I probably wouldn't fancy Luton just because I wouldn't fancy them at Wembley. All I'd say on there seems to have been this misnomer over the years that the team that comes at a late run wins the playoffs. Actually, the data shows that that the team who finishes 3rd or 4th wins it the far more times than the team that finish 5th or 6th. So I have to say, even if Forest get pipped to 2nd place, they're the best team in there for me by a country mile, and I can't look outside of Nottingham Forest. I just think that people like to say that the playoffs are this lottery, and anybody who comes on a late run could win them. I think actually when you look back over the years, the vast majority of the time, the best team in there wins the playoffs, and I think Forest are the best team in there by some distance, because the only reason you're not top two is because you had a bad start under Houghton.
On that point about Wembley and Luton, at Wembley, I fancy us to be absolutely anyone. I just think Brennan Johnson and Keenan Davis being able to run at these sort of tight defences, it gives them all that space and all that chance to flourish. The only one that concerns me out of anyone is Luton away, just because of the way they played. We went to Sheffield United and we battered them. Ended up sneaking a 95th minute goal. We actually only got a 95th minute equaliser. But in terms of...
Similar to City Road as well. It's the City Ground as well.
Yeah. And against Huddersfield, they're a good side, but we had about 865 chances over 2 games against them to win. And again, you've still got to put them away. I totally understand that. But we know in football it's about creating, it's about scoring, goals win matches. And I think against any of those teams, I fancy us. It's just that Luton away game. There was a lot in that game as well, refereeing decisions, and it's really sort of made us think that we've got to be on top of it, because we've been flying thinking we could beat absolutely anybody. Luton put us in a place for a time, but we've come back strong again. We're going to lose games. It's the Championship. But I think over a mini cup competition like it is, and we've shown in the FA Cup, almost like a free hit, we've used the FA Cup to get back in form when we'd lost 1 or 2 games. In those big sort of games, the players now, they're going to be Premier League players. There's 4, 5, 6 of them, whether it's with Forrest next season or with other clubs, they're going to be there. So the quality's there. Like sorry, I forgot your name. The West Brom fan says it's those teams who've been flying sort of all season and probably just deserve it based on finishing 3rd or 4th.
See, I'm going to be controversial with this one, because if we finish 6th and Forest finish 3rd, I don't fancy it. Over 2 legs, I reckon you take that easily. I'd say 2-0 at your place, 1-1 at ours. If we get Forest, if we somehow sneak through a playoff semi-final, we get Forest at Wembley, they're the only team I fancy at Wembley over 1 game. Over 2, no chance. Over 1, I think if we've had a week off and we can get some players back, we've got enough about us to nick one. Not going to say we're going to outplay you or smash you, but judging on the past 2 games that we played against you, just over 1 fixture, I reckon we can do it. Playing you twice in quick succession, I wouldn't fancy.
What I just say is Wembley. Like I've seen, I used to work there, so I went to every playoff final, and it's the teams that can make the pitch big and really use that space, because it is a big pitch, it is a wide open space.
Yeah.
And I just think Huddersfield are such a set piece team that I just don't fancy them on that pitch. Luton, as I said, for the reasons that I said before, and similarly with Millwall, I think Millwall would probably like to try and, they do try to shrink the pitch a little bit with the way that they play and make it a narrower game, and I think they could struggle with that. I mean, the ones for me are Forest. I think Sheffield United have got the players. If Morgan Gibbs-White starts getting a bit of space out there and stuff like that, can definitely make things happen. And if Bournemouth drop out of those automatic places, I would still fancy them to go all the way in the playoffs, because they're such a good side. And to be fair, Parker, he managed to, when this happened to him with Fulham, he managed to reset the mentality, go again, get through 2 legs, and then went to Wembley with a real game plan when they did an absolutely brilliant Brentford side that everybody thought was going to go to Wembley and win that game. So, I mean, they'd be my 3 for me. Bournemouth, Forest and Sheffield United would be the 3 that, and one of those is going to, one of Bournemouth. I don't think Huddersfield will make automatic. So one of Bournemouth or Forest will go up automatically anyway. So,
I don't know about Parker with having to reset Bournemouth. I just think when he took Fulham up, and when they say they beat that really good Brentford side, everyone was tipping. They was always on the coattails of 2nd place most of that season. They was never actually in that position. Bournemouth are still, they got 3 or 4 games to go. Yeah, 4 games to go. They're still in with a chance. If Fulham went and lost to Nottingham Forest and they won at Swansea, and then they won their game, they play again before. I'm not sure they play before Fulham play again. They're putting pressure on Fulham. They've been in that top 2 most of the season. No one's ever thought of them as a possible playoff team until Forest hit that run. And with that Fulham team that Parker had, we were always on the coattails, hoping we'd get second place, but it always looks a bit unlikely.
Bournemouth were one of the worst teams I've seen at Lane this season. And that's in all honesty. I don't think they were good at their ground either. They were absolutely awful. And it surprises me to see them in second place. But that comes down to, I think this has been a poor championship season. Yeah. I do think the quality has been really poor. I think any other season, Fulham, as good as they've been, wouldn't be running away with it like they are. They'd have harder times against some stronger teams if there were any. And I think that's going to continue until something happens with this FFP gap between the Premier League and Championship, because the standard's getting worse and worse every year. The only reason we're anywhere near the playoffs after we started is because of how bad the division's been.
Yeah, I agree with our Sheffield United friend there. I remember early in this season, I watched a Premier League game on Sky. I know we're not here to talk about that. And it was Palace versus Brighton at Selhurst Park. It was a Monday night game, and I think Marpay might have got a last second equaliser for Brighton. I watched that game and I'm thinking, well, if we go up again, they're the sort of teams you'd expect to beat or what need to be at home, Palace and Brighton. That's all respect to them. You know, they're established Premier League teams. And I watched that match and I just thought, you're like years ahead of Fulham and anyone else in the Premier League. It's so hard to stay up, but and any club that goes up this season who thinks they're going to even remain with half their team, with their entire 11. Any fan who thinks that needs a frontal lobotomy. I know what Fulham need next season. I can think of 5 positions we need strengthening, and everyone else does too.
Well, look, we went up 2 years ago with a side that, for the large portion, we bottled it after lockdown. There's a lot of talk about our players didn't look after themselves and everything like that. But we were 12 points clear when the lockdown happened. And there was the break in the season, and we were deservedly 12 points clear. And we had Pereira, Diangana, Romain Sawyers absolutely murdering the division. We went up into the Premier League, and these players looked like absolute muppets for basically until Allardyce got us Ainsley Maitland-Niles and OK Ukoslu, both of whom are really, really good players. I mean, Maitland-Niles is now playing for Roma. Ukoslu is, a Turkish international and playing in La Liga. So the gap, as you say, is massive. And it's why my money would be on Forest, because if you look at those teams in there and said to me, which one of them would you give a prayer to in the Premier League? The only one is Forest. And to be honest, even then, that's only if they can sign some of their loans, because they'd still need to sign Zinkernagel and Davis and Jed Spence and people like that permanently. But if they could do that, and they went up with this squad and they added a few with it, I'm sure Olympiacos have got a couple of half decent players that you could borrow.
They don't steal ours. They normally take the best ones.
You give them your absolute garbage as well for about 10 million quid, don't you?
Well, yeah, we have to stay within FFP.
I'll tell you what.
Better than selling your ground, isn't it?
Jed Spence's. I mean, he was at Fulham, never made it. He ended up at Middlesbrough. Was it Warnock who decided to loan him out? Good God Almighty! What a good footballer he is. And I tell you what, obviously he's obviously very happy at Forest. He's adored by the fans there. Wow! I mean, what a good footballer he is. I love watching him. A right back who can defend and get forward. They're priceless.
I can't, for the life of me, I can't see him being at Forest next season, just simply because he won't be at Middlesbrough either, by the way. But I think Middlesbrough will take him back and basically put a stupid price tag on his head, and he will end up going to somebody probably in the top 10 of the Premier League, to be honest, because as you say, there's just not that many players like him.
Yeah, we could have gone for about 50 grand, and because he was just surplus to requirements. He was 3rd or 4th choice at Middlesbrough. And now he's for 15, 20 million, isn't he? No wonder Warnock he's retired. He's finally retired Warnock off, hasn't he?
Nothing tells me we've not seen the last of Warnock.
He'll
club in crisis.
He'll creep back in some way or another.
One last hurrah.
He's like that super villain that you think is dead, but they're not.
100%. He's like the end boss, isn't he? He's just there. He's just there watching, waiting for another chance at you.
Sharon, I've found the club. We're going back, love. You can see it.
He was on after the Forest game, after a live game, and I watched it when I got in, and he just got a free hit on referees. He just absolutely tore into the ref. He didn't talk about the game. It was the West Brom game.
In all fairness, it was our game, and he did have a point. I mean, they have don't get me wrong, you murdered us and deservedly beat us, but they have basically given you your second goal by changing the decision on the throw-in as our lad is walking off the pitch to take it.
Absolutely, but he still spent the whole time. He never mentioned Forrest and Steve Cooper and the promotion. He just went for that referee, and it was a free hit. He can't get fined anymore.
That's why we love him. That's why we love him. He's outspoken. He says what he wants, does what he wants in his own unique way.
I say if he has retired, if he has fully retired, the game will be a darker place.
Without a doubt, he's great. I absolutely love him. Now, for this hasn't been the best season in the Championship. We've had a few hit and misses. What's been your highlight? What's been your individual highlight of your team? Chris, I know it's hard for you. Donna meets your highlight.
I was going to say, can I go with one in the future, which will be when it's over?
Surely it's beating us 4-0 at Hawthorns. You were winning league that day, weren't you?
I was going to say, there has been some highlights, Chris. You're so negative at the moment. I just think you dislike Bruce. I think it's a personal.
Well, I mean, I don't love Bruce. That's that much is undoubtedly true. But I don't know. There's not been a lot of positives for us, really. As you say, I think the early season optimism was probably about as good as it got. That being said, I think that to give Bruce his due, the two wins that we had against Fulham and against Bournemouth were fantastic, and we played the top two in this division off the park. There was nothing lucky about either of those two results. We battered Fulham, didn't know how we went in 0-0 at half time, and then came out and got an early goal, and we just defended for our lives, and we were absolutely tremendous. At Bournemouth, to be honest, how it was only 2-0 is anybody's guess. I mean, Andy Carroll running in behind onto a long ball is just one of the most beautiful things to see ever. He's been a real plus, because I think he's given the Albion fans something to hang on to, proper commitment. He's worn the armband a couple of times now as well, and deservedly so. So there have been positives, but under Ishmael, if you're splitting the season in half, under Ishmael, it was the early season form when we really thought we could do something here. And under Bruce, it was those two games against Bournemouth and Fulham that really gave us hope that we could reignite a promotion charge, and also showed us that this squad isn't actually as terrible as it's made itself out to be over the course of the season.
Hear that?
Yeah, my highlight has obviously been Mitrovic's goals. I'm just interested to see what he does.
I knew he was going to say this. No, 41 goals, Mitrovic. He's been unplayable.
I'm not saying he's going to set the Premier League on fire. I'm really on the fence. I don't buy into the theory yet that he will, and I don't buy into the theory that he won't. The first time he played in the Premier League for Fulham, most probably under McGaff and all those lunatics we had that year, but not not McGaff. It was the one before last, when it ended with Scott Park. We had Ranieri. The first season, I think, I'm confused now. The 20 after Djukanovic got the sack. When we had Ranieri, then Parker. He got 12 goals that year in a really, really bad relegated side of a team that scored about 32 goals. Last year, he only got a few, 3 or 4, but Parker hardly played him. And the way Scott Parker sets up.
Why was that?
Sorry?
Why was that?
Well, I don't know. Who knows? There's obviously a lot. I'm not warm to what goes on there, but there's a lot of suggestions. A lot went wrong off the field there last year. There was a lot of discontent the way Parker, and Mitrovic was obviously a victim. So you've got to remember, he still scored 12 goals in a really bad Fulham team when we come down at 3 years ago. I think we've got to see what he does next year. But
if he gets 10 or 12 next season, we'll be happy with that, Chris. Sorry, Steve.
If what?
If he gets 10 or 12 next season, you happy with that?
You could still go down with that. We did last time. You need to be looking at it and getting 15, 16. I mean, it's all. But what the difference will be this next season, you'll know whether he's a Premier League player or just a flat track Championship bully, because they're going to set the team up around him. He's going to get, like this season, he's going to get the service. Next season, we'll see, and I think we'll see pretty quickly. If he's suddenly got 5-6 goals by the middle of October, you'll know he's okay at that level, and there's a chance they might survive. But as I said earlier to you, the difference between the Premier League and the Championship is in night and day.
That Anton Robinson for you, have you rated him? Because we were meant to be after him. I think
really
he's a player.
He'd be hot and cold. I think one of the positions they need next year is another left back. Last couple 3 games, he's lost his place to Joe Bryan again. And yesterday he only come on at half time because Bryan had been booked. Referee was booking everyone from both teams. Got away with a foul just before half time and would have been sent off for the next one. So he's not even in the first team. Bags of pace, but I'm not sure about him.
Can I just say on Mitro, I think if he gets 10 or 12 for you next season in the Premier League, I think that's an unbelievable season. I think people overestimate how many goals players should get. You say about 15. 15 goals at the moment would have him in the top 4 strikers in the Premier League, in the top 4 goal scorers.
That's to keep Fulham up.
But there's only 3 players in the whole Premier League that have more than 15 goals at the moment, and they are Ronaldo, Son, and Salah. So
we finished
10,
top 10.
Goals would be incredible.
We finished top 10, and McBurney with top scorer with 10 goals. So it's not a bad all.
Yeah,
I just think 12 goals to him wasn't enough to keep keep Fulham up before, and that's where you're looking for the goals next season.
But I think the thing is it's when they get the goals. I think that's more important. Like when we were in the Premier League, we had Odom Wingy, and what he would do is he got so many winners in big games against teams down the bottom. Same with Shane Long, didn't score a lot, but when you needed a goal, Longy would pop up. What I would say about Mitrovic is sometimes he can be a bit of a flat track bully, and he can get sort of like 2s and 3s in one game and then go missing for a little bit. I think if he can get that consistency where he scored, you mentioned before about your Brightons, your Crystal Palaces, Burnley if they stay up, and people like that. If he can start consistently scoring against those teams, and you don't even really need to worry about him when you play Chelsea, Man United, Manchester City, Liverpool, because then they're not the games that keep you in the Premier League.
Hear that. We've got a few minutes before we got to wrap. So, Des, quite finally, what's been your big moment for Forrest this season so far, pal?
I think I've got to go with the day Steve Cooper came through the door. The place was absolutely sort of the problem was we was getting relegated. And we was going down with a lower points total than Derby got in the Premier League. It was so bad we were relying on Fulham reserves. So I was Christie, Anthony Knockhart, Chris Hughton, just so outdated. It just sort of so defensive, so negative. The club wasn't right. Steve Cooper come in. He was a breath of fresh air. He told them they were playing for a big club. We don't want to be too arrogant, but we are a big club. And he reminded the players of where they're playing. They're lucky to play at this club. He said we're looking at promotion from the outset. He didn't beat about the bush. He's got so much respect in the game as well for what he's done with the kids at Liverpool and with the England setup. So instead of those signings I mentioned there, Hughton signings, we were going for players with real potential. And he's got a reputation in the game for making players better. We signed Keenan Davis and everybody's pointing at his goal scoring record and he don't do this and he don't weigh up. But he comes in, he's been an absolute revelation. He works with young talent. Forrest have got a great academy anyway, the likes of Brennan Johnson and a couple of others coming through, and he works with them and he just made everybody believe again. And again, that's part of it, isn't it? The Championship sometimes it's a bit of much of a muchness. It's all the same. The same players moving around clubs, same managers moving around. But when you get on a roll, when you get some positivity and start winning football matches, it builds confidence and he's sort of instilling even more confidence with the way he motivates and inspires what's going on around him. So for me, it's definitely Cooper.
Love that. Fully hear that. Gascoigne? What's been your high? What's been your mild high of Sheffield United following them around this season?
My biggest high of the season hasn't happened yet because the club's still owned by Prince Abdullah and not been sold. So once the EFL ratify that and the club's sold, that'll be my highlight of the season. If I have to pick something that's actually happened, it has to be Heckingbottom getting appointed. I was a bit sceptical when he first came in. But like Des said, Cooper's been a breath of fresh air. We started looking more like a football team that wants to attack teams. Unfortunately, we could have done better if not for all the injuries that's happened. But we've looked more like a team that will compete with other teams rather than a team that's happy to just pass the ball around their own defence and get beat by the likes of West Brom 4-0, go away and draw 0-0 at Luton. I think we had all that in the space of a week, and it was just so demoralising. So to see a quick, instinctive change, improve the way we set up, a guy who's used to the club, a guy who gets the club, and put some, I don't want to talk in cliches, but put some of that Sheffield United DNA back into the team. We've just looked a far better prospect than what we did at the beginning of the season. So that moment where we got rid of Jukanovic and brought Heckingbottom in, that's my highlight of the season.
Love that. Love that. Gentlemen, I've got to say, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the Pitch Football Show. Make sure you tell your friends, family and colleagues how great it is to be working with myself. It's been a great pleasure to spend a bit of time with you. I really do appreciate it. Also, if you've enjoyed watching this show, each one of these guys and guests have their own media, their own interviews, their own podcasts, their own stuff going on. So make sure you look out for their familiar faces and voices in the future. It's been a great pleasure, gentlemen. Enjoy your week and we shall catch up real soon. Thank you very much.
Cheers, James, and enjoy the season.
Yeah, enjoy the extended season, boys. I'll have my feet up.
It's going right down to the wire, I can tell it. It's going to be
not for West Brom, it's not.
No, it's not.
No. It's always next season, Chris. It's always next season.
Yeah, when we've got Bruce.
You and Bruce get a bit of time to bond and talk it out, pal. You'll be all right. Let's go. Thanks, lads.
Not a problem. Cheers lads.
Boys.